ladies and gentlemen, we'll continue to the next session. In this session, we have Adrian Robinson, CEO of TJ's Leanne, and Braxton Bragg, VP of Growth at Rebel XYZ. Okay, so they're going to share with us their knowledge and insights of NFT. So first of all, ask the two of you to give us a little bit of introduction of yourself.
Sure. Hey everybody, Braxton Bragg at VP of Growth at Rebel XYZ. So I've been in product management for about 10 years and Web3 for about a year and a half now. I worked previously for a Web3 company that was a more traditional NFT project, and we had a many app with AI as well. My current company is trying to be sort of an Instagram of Web3, so people upload media and can mint those as digital assets and trade them with others.
My name is Adrian, CEO of Gen, and I have a musical background. I was playing in a band when I was in the early 2000s. They got signed, did a bunch of touring, ventured into film. I'm really passionate about connecting creatives and fans because I saw that as something that was always controlled by like there's a lot of roadblocks in there when it comes to like the centralized entities control a lot of my access to my family. So that is kind of what I'm really passionate about, which is why I'm building in this space. I actually, right before starting this company, I worked for a layer one called Harmony and ran their marketing. And really just that was my crash course into Web3. I would go to conferences all around the world with our founder, and what better way to learn about this place, this space than that, and saw that I could add value. Saw that there was something that I could do in this space. So jumped off the cliff. And see, here we are.
Okay, let's first start by when people talk about NFT, talk about Web3, several terminologies are very frequently mentioned, like blockchain, NFT, cryptocurrencies. But although we don't have a huge audience here, but this entire summit will be broadcast online, and we will have recording that will be replayed. So we will have a large audience who probably don't know that much about Web3, about all these terms. Since this session is about NFT, maybe you can share with us what's your definition of NFT, what it's about.
Sure, I'll go first. NFT to me is just a receipt. It's just a thing that says that I own this thing. Now, I think a lot of what's popular is that we own a JPEG for our profile picture, or you've heard about, owning some music that maybe a creator puts up. So this to me is, I think, the general population's definition of NFT. But I think it actually goes deeper because I think that the NFT being a receipt is really just a layer of identity. So if we tokenize all of our actions and assets, we start to develop this identity, and this can be very valuable, at least for what we're building, and I'm sure what a lot of other people are trying to build is this ability to reach the other person because I know that they took action, to be able to hypermarket towards my community, and also not just hypermarket towards like an ambiguous community. It's being able to identify, no, you specifically. I want to market specifically to you because I know that you did something. There's a verifiable action taken on chain. So that I think there's many layers of what is an NFT. The surface layer is that JPEG artwork kind of thing. But I think it goes a lot deeper, and I think identity is, I think, the biggest problem that we can solve in blockchain. Personally.
Yeah, those were good. I think receipt is the first word that you said, and that was one of the ideas that came to mind to me as well. That sort of a proof of ownership is probably one of the applications that's going to be very enduring in the space. And I think the last panel started to get into that a little bit as well. A few other kind of buckets come to mind, some of which represent also what the last panel was talking about, where a lot of consumers have been burned. So one of them is kind of this profile picture idea where that was all the craze in like 2021 and 2022. I think there's been more recently, probably starting last year, a shift towards utility tokens, like membership passes of some kind. They give you benefits if you're to hold them. I think in gaming, there are a lot of applications as well. So not necessarily the PFP side, although they can be, not necessarily sort of a single membership pass either, but digital assets that can be used for some purpose or another. And I use the the term digital assets again. We're sort of, in my company at least, leaning away from the term NFT because it has sort of a stink associated with it now that it didn't used to. And as one of the problems we go through generally is onboarding a mass consumer audience. And the market research that we're doing suggests that a lot of people, especially very young people, really don't like that term. It's either inaccessible for some folks, or it's associated with scams and losing money. Digital assets, on the other hand, is a little bit more friendly, understandable, and we're hoping at least that will be something that we can, that will be more appealing.
I agree with you. And the whole terminology of NFT, I think it's going to eventually disappear because you're right. Public perception about NFT is just scam, hustle. It actually has nothing. People's perception of what it is actually nothing of what it actually does. And so I think this is a marketing thing, actually, just naming it. It's just, I think people are going to have to name it something else. And I think digital assets is great. I think people are going to, because NFT does so many different things, people are just going to start naming NFT after specifically what they're doing in that moment. So if it is a rewards card, they're just going to call it rewards. Like they're not going to, that's where I think all the successful companies will start to see when they're going beyond just selling PFPs.
I think also the word token is going to endure in some form or fashion. That doesn't quite have the same sort of recoil associated with it, but the non-fungible token part and creation of NFT is just, it's it may have had its day.
User experience is still important. You're a total UX guy, so UX is important. So who cares what the name is, right?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, all that really matters is that are you providing value for the end consumer, whether or not they know it or not. Like I believe that some of the use cases that we're actually building for our app, many of the people that are using the NFTs won't even realize that they're using it. So our app is going to be has many different products, but one of the avenues is going to be ticketing and basically tokenizing the ticket. Now people will be like, "Oh, you mean like creating artwork in JPEG?" And I'm like, "No, just attaching the NFT to that ticket, just so I know you did it." And for the consumer, they're not even really gonna need to know that there's an NFT attached, but there's value in it being attached, because I can prove that you went to the concert.
Right. Do you can you be a little more specific, like have an example of how you use? Let's still call it NFT.
Sure, of course.
Yeah. So
For the purposes of this panel.
Well, I mean, there's the latest example was Live Nation with a band called Avenged Sevenfold. So one of the guys in the band is very much into this space, and decided to work on this with Live Nation. And the way they did it was they, sold like on OpenSea, the NFT. I'm thinking about it, sorry, let me finish what they did. They sold on OpenSea, and then you were able to whitelist to be able to get tickets, essentially. Now, this is very complicated for the average user. And I think, in my opinion, the value is selling the ticket with the NFT attached, and then just using that. That's a natural thing. You just buy tickets. And then the next step after that is, okay, I want to market to the same person that bought my ticket before. So you're auto whitelisted, like abstracting the steps that the people have to do in order to purchase these experiences, I think is going to be take it to the next level. I mean, that is an example of one recently that just happened. So how a fan can, or a creator can connect with their fans through an experience. And that's like at one of the highest levels. Live Nation's one of the biggest. But I think the experience can be a lot better. And I think part of what we're building, which I think is super valuable, is the onboarding. Traditional onboarding is done with like MetaMask, or maybe use like Rainbow Wallet or something, Phantom Wallet. We developed and have a patent pending on an SMS login solution. And this SMS login, we actually just did a demo of it, a campaign with it, and we can onboard people in 20 seconds or less just using your cell phone. So this to me crashes down the barrier of can we connect with fans in blockchain, because the biggest hurdle, I think Ali mentioned it before with, the other panel, going from games like 100 million fans down to like on Solana, maybe 500,000 fans. And the main hurdle is that onboarding is getting someone into a wallet. And most people don't even care about that. They just want to log in. So we think that crashing that barrier down to get normal fans who don't even necessarily need all the features of a MetaMask or a wallet that you would download. Like you don't need to download our app. It just works with your phone number and a link. And I think that's developing solutions like that'll onboard people is actually the first step before even thinking about the NFTs. Like we got to get them into the marketplace, and then once they're in the marketplace, then they can do transactions. Because it doesn't work unless you can put the NFT somewhere. So we had to solve two problems at this, while making this product. One was a login, and the other one was, attaching NFTs to everything that we do on the platform. So I think that onboarding is definitely how it's going to go mainstream, and I think I'm actually pretty impressed that Avenged Sevenfold was able to sell as many tickets as they did through the way that they did it, because it definitely takes a lot of knowledge to be able to convince somebody to download a wallet, to go to this site, to use these tokens to buy this asset. It takes a lot, and so for them to do that, I tip my hat to them. But I don't think it can go mainstream that way. I think it has to be very easy.
There are a couple other sort of semi-mainstream examples like what you guys are doing. So Starbucks was very successful launching its loyalty program on Polygon, and then Reddit Avatar is also on Polygon. So there's a lot of custodial wallets that were created for folks who may or may not even realize that they now are interactive with blockchain.
Yeah,
we're doing that too, and we're also using Polygon. No one has to connect MetaMask or anything like that. Ultimately, we will have that option, but for now, it's easier just to do it for people, get them sort of started collecting and trading, and ultimately, hopefully, they will be more comfortable with the idea of stuff design.
Or I think even in a more ideal situation, they don't even know. and it just works.
Yeah, yeah. Most of the time.
That to me is the best, because like, if I, that's why we don't call our wallet a wallet, we call it a login, because people just understand login. We just said, you know what, it's not a wallet, it's a login. So like, we just pivoted and are just calling it that.
And if you use the word wallet, people will get very conscious.
Yeah, exactly, and I just want
My
them to
wallet.
just take the actions, so I mean, you know, and then there's also the, like, he brought up a great point, custodial, non-custodial. I think, depending on what solution you're using, because the custodial option might be an easier option to use. We opted for the non-custodial just because we didn't want to be responsible for people's assets. So, but there is trade-offs, pros and cons to both, because I mean, at the end of the day, all that matters is the user experience, I think. Whether we have where we want to go, but we also have to meet the user where they are, I think.
So, what's your user demographics?
Well, okay, so we just launched, and I had an old music manager, who did all the biggest tours back when I was touring. And he ended up buying an amphitheater in Poconos Park, which is not too far from here, 10,000 seat amphitheater. And he's putting on his first shows, and he asked, you know, could you guys make a voting mechanism in your app? And I said, yeah, why not? If you're down to partner with us, like, absolutely. So where he was going with this is we ended up starting to do battle of bands on our site. And so there's a voting mechanism to do that. The winner gets to open for Leonard Skinner. Leonard Skinner is not a Gen Z band. They are an older demographic. We did a trial run. It wasn't really promoted. So most of our users, surprisingly, are at this stage in our first run are over the age of like 35, 40. And we were able to prove that we can onboard people into a wallet who don't care about this technology. The boomers, I guess you could say. So knowing that I can do that with that demographic, now I can do it with perhaps a younger band and such. But we essentially, that's our current demographic, but I think being able to prove that it's that easy to use, we can reach younger demographics with different bands. I mean, the Battle of the Bands, we actually leased the name from Int'l, which is the #1 string manufacturer in the world, and they actually own the name. And Brian Ball, the CEO of Int'l, is the judge. And when they were doing it, they stopped doing it in 2016. When they did it, they reached at their height, I think, 25,000 bands, which per year, which, you know, multiplied by the number of fans they have, is a massive amount of traction that they did, and we're relaunching it. Yeah, so that's our current demographic right now.
And Braxton, you have a specific example to?
Of our demographic.
Yeah, that's that too, but like how your company's can study how you use Teams.
Yeah, so actually what Adrian was talking about in part in terms of connecting creators of one kind or another with their fans is something that we're pursuing as well. So from a community perspective, can we use our platform, our technology, blockchain digital assets in order to allow creators to see who their biggest fans are in terms of actually putting their money where their mouth is. So for a creator and platform, there will be a leaderboard showing exactly who owns what, who's been with them the longest, who sort of has the biggest portfolio of their stuff. And on Instagram, you can't really tell that. One like is the same as any other like. And it's very difficult to understand like who follows most closely. We also see it as a way to connect people around creators, but also potentially around different subject areas, maybe even brands as time goes on. So on our platform, there may be ways for me to connect with people that share the same interests that I share, whether that's maybe a specific type of gaming or some kind of niche sci-fi interest that only I know about, along with like 10 other people somewhere else in the country or the world. Whatever the list goes on, I'm kind of a weird guy, so of course I'm the sci-fi part out of it. But yeah, I heard recently on a podcast that I listened to, no one is kind of doing the Instagram of Web3 yet. So is there a need for that? Maybe, we don't know yet. I mean, we're still working on product market fit, but we believe that the potential is there, and that's what we're exploring.
I'll also add to that too, like people say, oh, well, your competition is Instagram, or, these big.
They backed out, so not anymore.
Yeah, and so like, I'm like, okay, well, how are you going to compete? Because these social media people are so big. But my counter to that, and the reason why I think there's an opportunity, is I don't think they're set up to be on chain. And I think if they introduce those features, that I think a majority, if it's not done right, of their user base will not like it. And I think what's interesting about what you're building is that you're building it from the ground up, and you're able to provide value and experience that is consistent and not changing. Like they already have their 11 herbs and spices, so why change the recipe? So it's like there's totally an opportunity for this type of application to exist in the space, and take over market share.
Yeah, that's certainly the hope. I think like any social network and a lot of other applications as well, there's sort of this like gold star problem, right? Network effects. So we're slowly scaling our user base, and hopefully we have that moment where we go vertical. We'll see.
So how do you think users can use NFTs to protect intellectual properties, copyrights?
It's my favorite question.
Okay, so one of the things that attracted me to blockchain space was the ability to, do royalty payouts, because that's a big deal for musicians. Come to find out that this promise is not 100%. It doesn't 100% work because of the underlying technology, which is the smart contract, specifically the transfer function. So what's interesting is that we'll do music royalties, or just art royalties in general. I sell this piece of art, this creative piece, and I say I want a 5% royalty. Now, as a musician, being able to set my royalty is awesome. I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever. And oh, I'm going to get a royalty every resale. This is great. I love this. Where it falls apart, and it took me talking to a developer to realize this, is that that is only good with that smart contract. And I'm like, okay, what do you mean? He's like, well, what if you wrap that smart contract with another smart contract? And I'm like, well, what does that do? Well, if you do that, I could effectively, the regular my smart contract, I could just sell it for $0 and transfer it, or 0.000001 ETH and transfer it. And now my royalty is nothing. It's like dust. And then the wrapped smart contract can just sell it for the market price. And now, as a creator, we're right back to Napster, where it's like, I'm not making anything off of this. I'm actually, not only am I giving away my intellectual property, which is the #1 thing that a creator wants, and that's when you sign a record deal, that's what you're giving away. But now I'm not getting paid for it. I'm giving it away and I'm not getting paid. So it's like a double negative. So the solutions that the industry have come up with so far are, well, if you resell this on a secondary platform, you don't get the benefits of the community. how do you really gauge if those benefits are gonna be there tomorrow? I think one of the other guys brought it up in the last panel. How do you maintain that benefit will be there? And also too, if you're a trader, you just don't want to pay the royalty to begin with. So I think Sotheby's, they just came out with their own marketplace, and they essentially blacklist certain exchanges where it cannot be traded. But I think that's you're going to just be blacklisting forever, and you're always going to have to be on top of it. And I think, as we've seen in DeFi, these traders, they find a way. They find a way to figure out and if they don't find a way, they have an aggregator that finds the way, like a Rubik or something like that. Rubik exchanges. I use it all the time to just basically swap one token to the other. I don't even care what the routing is. I just want the lowest price. And so I think that's kind of where some of this buying and selling is going to happen eventually. And so, I think you're going to run into this situation where creators are going to have to choose is the platform 100% decentralized? Well, if so, you have those risks. Is the platform centralized? Well, I'm protected, but now I'm not decentralized. So now this consumer can't just walk away with the asset. I think there's going to have to be something in the middle where it's almost like a DAO of companies of sorts, like the open seas and the blurs and all these NFT marketplaces maybe come together and whitelist together and do that. But kind of, because at the end of the day, what are those platforms? They're nothing without the creator. They need the creator. And once the creator starts to realize, hey, wait a second, I'm not getting paid for this. I'm not getting paid for the other, for resale or the stream or whatever. This doesn't make any sense. Let me just stay on Spotify. Let me just stay on these centralized things. You have to make it make market sense for the creator. And I think there's a lot of speculation and froth. So I think a lot of these creators initially are drawn to that. And they're like, oh, I can sell this NFT for this much, but how long is that sustainable? I don't know if that's sustainable at scale. Because right now there's the market, there's not that many assets that are at scale, there's not that many assets, but what happens when it's flooded? As a creator, imagine if every single song on Spotify was tokenized, and you think that the average investor is going to want to invest in XYZ band, or they're going to want to invest in Drake. They're going to want to invest in Drake. Is Drake going to want to go on that platform if he doesn't get paid? No. So I think there's going to have to be some sort of compromise in the way that this royalty payment infrastructure is laid out, because as a creator, I want to get paid. That's the bottom line. That's how. And then the other side of it, and I've seen this argument on Twitter from people that are, traders. They're not really creators, but they say, well, if I own the asset, I own the asset. You should know. You should have just priced it higher. And that's like me saying, okay, well, I'm going to price, Michael Jackson's Bad before he's Michael Jackson, at $10 million, and no one's going to buy it because it's not out yet. And it's the chicken egg. It has to become a hit, and it becomes a hit through the network effect of people loving the song. And so if I charge too high of a price, the royalty mechanism is there because it's fair. It rewards people that make great stuff. But, I don't know, I'm curious your thoughts on it, because I'm sure that has to do some of that as well.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, I can get into that a little bit. Royalties are super interesting. When I first started researching NFTs, and the case was being made that this is a new platform for art, and it's going to be much more favorable to artists, because if you're a starving artist and you sell a painting for $1,000, that's your only income ever from that painting. And maybe if you become famous, your next creation can sell for more, great. But still, that other painting is changing hands and increasing value each time, and you're not a part of that ecosystem. So everyone was talking about when NFTs were first becoming big. This is a different medium that will change that equation for starving artists. They don't have to worry about that stuff anymore. Now, with different marketplaces kind of absconding from the royalties model, is that true anymore? I think there's been a lot of back and forth and changes in policy, so we'll have to see how it plays out. But it does seem like it certainly is not as promising as it was, and maybe there will be sort of like a return to the former equilibrium. Yeah, we have, because our platform is in essence a marketplace, we have sort of royalties for creators. The assets on our platform don't really trade for anything. That's kind of the point. Like, you have a ton of them out there and they're easy to acquire, easy to sell. People don't worry about it that much, and there's a high trading velocity. The royalties presumably could add up over time if we have a huge user base and a lot of folks are trading these things regularly. But like you talked about earlier, why do we ever need to allow users to connect outside wallets to our app, to maybe bring things on and take them off? We see value in that. Part of the interest that we have in blockchain is that maybe there is some utility for digital assets that are created on a platform elsewhere. Like, that's a really powerful idea. What if our company isn't around anymore? All of the work that went into creating the art and the photos and videos on our platform could still be used even if our company is no longer going concern. Like, that's really powerful and interesting to me. If we're not, I don't work here at Revel like 20 years from now, 15 years from now, if no one does, could we still persist in some form or fashion? Yes, but of course, in that case, like, we're not there to collect royalties and distribute them on those trades anymore either. And maybe no one else will care to. So, like you said, there are trade-offs.
So NFTs are those tokens, those receipts that is like attributed to a piece of art or some intellectual properties. And they can be traded. It's like, stock is a share of a company. It's supposed to be based on value of the company. And then when stocks get traded, it's another market. What's your opinion on trading of NFTs, like the trading of NFTs themselves instead of the original? What does it do to the original content?
Can you give an example of what you mean?
It's like, how are they NFTs? How are they bought and sold? And what does it mean to the original artwork or music?
I think the question is, as a buyer, why can you evaluate the value? And what is your maybe strategy for the trading? I think that is the question.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you hear a lot these days. Like, we try to steer away at least from the sort of financial aspect of it as much as possible, because there's a regulatory risk as well. So that's a major concern. A needle that a lot of companies in the space are trying to thread. From a consumer perspective, how to evaluate the value? I mean, I think it's about what the value is to you and potentially other people, right? So if you're thinking about how something might appreciate or not, you have to take into account, is someone else going to want this thing and potentially pay more for it, or at least the same as I did down the line. And we're not really counting on that. I think so many people have been burned in this space that it's wise not to. You hear a lot of folks whenever they give any talk, whether that be in any kind of public forum. This is not financial advice, and assume all NFTs will go to zero. because the market is that uncertain right now. So that's why we're certainly not anywhere close to that model and don't expect it anytime soon. If people, if communities develop a faith in it that is beyond sort of what we originally expected, that's fine, but we're certainly not trying to cultivate that type of behavior.
I think the markets right now are completely illiquid, so trying to like determine a fair value, I guess, for an NFT. I mean, you could manipulate that if you had enough cash.
People do.
And people do it all the time, so I think the value. I think that phase of crypto, every 4 years, there's another cycle, and it's gonna happen real quick. Like I remember Bored Apes came out in April, and by the end of the year, they were the biggest thing. So I'm talking like 9 months where it just took over the world. And that was during a bull season. Like, I think everyone right now is building what's the next thing. And I think you might be on the same page that I think the utility aspect of the NFT is going to be more dominant, I would hope, the next cycle, rather than the speculative. I think by providing the user value in exchange for the NFT, I think that's going to be. I'm hoping that that's the next cycle. I don't know if it will be, because I think, there's still, people love froth. People love the casino, where they see this picture and they paid an ETH for it and now it's worth 50 ETH. People love that. But I think he's focused on a different aspect. I think we're focused on a different aspect as well. I'm looking more about NFTs as an identity, and being able to develop business models around that rather than a financial flip, So yeah, I don't know if either of us are in the speculative game, so I don't,
Yeah, I think our businesses are not, right? But it sounds like you've been around in the space. I've been a crypto hobbyist since late 2016 or something like that. So we have seen like some boom and bust. I guess I've been burned somewhat personally and professionally in my last business. Yeah. So now, and I think so many people have. So the question is like, and there's all this venture money in the space now, a lot more eyes on it, more regulation. Is there going to be a repeat of sort of the boom bust cycle in this particular space that we've seen in the past? I mean, people are really acting that way right now. I guess that could change and maybe history will repeat itself, but I don't know. It certainly has affected my behavior and planning.
Also, too, I'll just say that I think crypto always needs, blockchain, it kind of needs that ridiculousness about it, the froth, the speculation. It kind of needs it to get more people interested. I mean, like the whole thing about a meme coin or these pictures, when you can say to a friend, yo, I just 10x my money on a frog coin, like the friend's gonna be like, how do I get this frog coin? So they learn by getting it. That's how I learned. For me, it was the dog coin. So like
another way of marketing.
Yeah, it's like, hey, my friend's like making money on this stuff on Doge, and I'm like, okay, I need to get in on this. And then I lost money, and just like everyone else. And then I'm like, whoa, this is actually really cool. Let me see what else is this, And I think there's always that little piece, and I think NFTs play a role in that there needs to be some of this ridiculousness to just get people like interested. It's almost like the marketing wing of blockchain.
I think maybe to the extent that speculation can and will continue to exist in a sustainable way, there may be folks, myself included, who will look at real businesses being built with real utility that can develop some kind of revenue model that is not just based on finding a sucker who will be exit liquidity. So I mean, we're venture funded. That's certainly like we can't depend on just suckers buying in and that's the only money we'll ever make. Like we are trying to build a real sustainable business model. All the people I know still working in Web3 as their full-time jobs, that has to be the path forward. So I think that will temper the speculation in Web3 and NFTs that has existed in the past. Will there still be crazy stuff going on? Absolutely, for sure. Probably forever, I guess, in some form or fashion. But there aren't as many suckers maybe as there used to be. And all this venture money, adults in the room, I think, has changed the equation as well.
So like, as professionals working day to day with NFTs, you actually do not want to see NFTs to become another financial or speculating product vehicle.
Oh,
Well, I was just going to say,
For the marketing.
the NFTs that I own, that I've purchased in the past, I would love for them to still drastically increase in value so that I can sell them. But that was just kind of a joke. No, yeah, of course. In answer to your question, in real answer to your question, yeah.
I think there's actually some NFTs that are linked to DeFi that are, will give you like, you lock a certain amount of assets for X amount of years and then you're earning, yield off of it. So there is that aspect to it and there's no art really attached to it. It's just kind of like exists in your wallet. You're kind of whitelisted to be able to claim voting rewards and like, I'm in a solidly fork right now that allows me to do that. And so, there is that I think there's some speculative things that you can do with NFTs that are not, sucker based, where you're locking up an asset and you're gaining yield. I think those are definitely good use cases and it also too, it allows you to, for governance, it allows you to vote on where you want the yield to go the most. And so I think that there's definitely that. I would personally just like to see it go away from the PFPs. I think that'll always exist, but I think both of us, it's not really like the business model, like, is to sell these PFPs. It's more about the value that the NFT actually provides. For us, it's, I want to really focus on identity. I think for you guys, it's about, similar, being able to know your fan, so, and provide value for that fan.
Yeah, I think there are lots of, collection has driven a lot of behavior. In addition to speculation, I think collection has driven a lot of behavior in the NFT space. Whether that's art, whether that's PFPs that are a form of self-expression, whether that's sets of things that are interesting in some way or have utility in some way. I think all of that will continue as well. It's probably especially going to be important to gaming and entertainment going forward. So there will be some speculation around those things too, but I think that real utility has to be there, or just sort of the appreciation of the assets for what they inherently are.
Like a great utility would be like if you had this great weapon that you can use in a game,
yeah,
and that's my NFT, and I'm the only one that can access it. And then everyone realizes that, hey, I could be a better player if I have this, golden sword. That value is going to go up, just because everyone wants it, and there's very few of those NFTs around. So I think in gaming, I think it's going to be awesome for that. I think both for the player, especially if they can earn it. You can earn this special weapon and then you can, sell it on a secondary market. I think that's awesome because then everyone is kind of participating in this economy together.
So in terms of content creativity, how do you think NFTs can be used to create new forms of art and entertainment?
Yeah, I mean, this one seems like it's for me. I mean, we're big believers of that at my company on our platform. So we believe that a creator of any kind can create digital assets of value to someone. So whether you're an artist, whether you're a comedian and you want to share some jokes with fans, and they might want to own some of those jokes, editions of those jokes. Musicians can immortalize songs as NFTs. Like all that's really interesting, and I think we've only scratched the surface of what's possible. Maybe those things could have utility too. If I'm a musician and I have an upcoming concert, maybe I want to give backstage passes only to the folks who are my top collectors of certain assets that I created, or have the most assets that I've created, and that's sort of an on-chain, very transparent way to recognize those folks and communicate with them maybe as well. I'm trying to make it back to music since that's interesting to you too. But I mean, we see that as a real use case, and it could be applied to any number of other spaces as well.
Yeah, music is the backstage pass thing. I think it's good. I think also too, like especially with the backstage passes, because a lot of these major artists have a Live Nation deal. So how are they going to profit outside of that Live Nation deal? Maybe by offering these exclusive experiences. I don't think Live Nation is going to be able to take a cut of you offering an experience like going to a dinner before the show, or something like that. I'm just kind of speculating what they could do, but like there's ways that you can maximize revenue as an artist if you're utilizing these NFTs to provide a lot of value. And I think a lot of that is going to have to do with like maybe the community aspect of it. If you are part of this collection, you get this value. Could be considered like almost like a rewards type of thing. I think that's definitely. I think it's going to influence what people create, because I think we're going to start to see a shift into a lot of decentralized content being created in the sense of like one of my friends is an influencer manager. She manages about 150 TikTok influencers. And her job is to take brands and then have all of it, or a bucket of influencers from that, take that ad spend, and she gets a middleman cut, and then these other people, they get to promote that in their video. But what if you were, I love her, but what if you were to be able to eliminate that, because you could just on chain be able to say, okay, I want influencers that are doing this, and I want to be able to have them specifically have those ad dollars go straight to them, like kind of like a virtual agency. I think you might see some of that happen, and I think there might even be, on the flip side of it, maybe it's not sponsored. It could be like in like an OnlyFans scenario. OnlyFans takes what, 20%? They take a lot. And so what if these people could, reveal content or make content without that middleman? And I think that's coming in. I think it's all coming soon, and I think it's going to directly influence how the content is distributed, what content is distributed, like how the fan consumes the content. It's all gonna shift a little bit too. And you're seeing it right now. You're seeing a lot of people unhappy with the way content is currently distributed. Like there's people on YouTube are complaining, I'm getting shadow banned, my video is demonetized, I don't know why. The avenue, maybe not how the content is like filmed, I guess, but maybe like how it's distributed, because I think as more of these creators own their own destiny and they're less dependent on ambiguous reasons why they're not getting paid. I mean, me personally, I have our channel got demonetized on YouTube, and all we post is music videos, like for my band, and I was like, why?
I'll tell you what, there was an incident here recently where if someone copies the content, it's used and the algorithms that they're using it compare it. So it looks like that they have the content, you have the content, but since they posted first, if that happens or somewhere else, you can say, no, this is already taken by somebody else. It's documented. This is great.
They said it was because we clickbaited them or something, but or like we had too many clicks. How am I supposed to stop some kid from, you know,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, I don't know, but I think with a decentralized distribution, be able to own your own platform, I think that all of these avenues are going to change. And I think the NFT is at the heart of it. So yeah, I'm really excited for this next level of content creation because of that. To be able to own your own destiny.
So the next question is, so ChatGPT, after its release in last year, has been a very popular topic. Students try to use it to write homework, and office workers try to use it to create presentations. Programmers probably try to use it to help with coding and all this. So these generative AI, how do you think will work? And NFTs, how do you think will work with generative AI and incorporate or help each other, or like filter?
Yeah, so we have an integration with Stable Diffusion on our platform. So there are folks, all of our users basically are, to one extent or another, using that tool to create AI generated images and mint them as NFTs. So I think people are having a lot of fun with that. It's a very inexpensive, free way to experiment with generative AI art. And it's been overall like a boom for our platform and for our community. I think an unintended consequence of that through all this experimentation and sort of layperson exposure to the tool, there's a lot of garbage on the platform too. It's stuff that nobody would really want. So we're not too worried about that in the sense that like we're building, and I think there is a natural phenomenon by which sort of the cream will rise to the top over time. But I think that's probably going to be true pervasively, that there's, to the extent that AI can be used as a tool to improve human output, at least in the short term, like that's awesome, and productivity will go up, and there'll be a lot of things that will be created that otherwise would not have been. Also, there will be a lot of garbage that doesn't go anywhere, and in some cases probably causes harm. But in the NFT space, yeah, I mean, there is and there will be a lot of garbage, fine, but there also will be some great stuff that otherwise would not have been possible.
I'm not 100% sure about the technology aspect and having it linked from the technology side, but I know from the creation side, it's already disrupting the creative industry. Be it like they're making songs without the artist in the room, Kanye, Drake, you know,
Drake and Weeknd,
yeah, Drake and Weeknd collaboration. And I think you can kind of tell it's not them yet, but I mean, how long is it going to take? Like 1 or 2 years before it's like flawless? It's not even that far away. Yeah, if that. So I think it, from a creative standpoint, I think that the artists are just going to have to use it. I think it's just going to be a tool. If you're not using it, you're not going to be making stuff fast enough. I used to work for 2 Chainz's manager, and he said the person that hits the upload button the most wins. And so the hard part about music is that sometimes it'll take 6 minutes to write a song, and sometimes it'll take 6 months to write a song. If you can use this AI to have any edge in getting the content out faster, I think that you'll be able to retain an audience. Because I mean, you got Drake releasing 2 albums a year, and people forget that it's only been a year. He's already got a 2nd album out in Christmas, stuff like that. is because our attention span is just shrinking. So if you're not uploading constantly, then your audience is going to forget that you exist. So I think for creators, I think they're going to have to use this to speed up the workflow if they can, and maybe not even creatively. It could even just be from a songwriter perspective. It could just be the delivery, because songwriters oftentimes their bottleneck is they need an engineer, or they need a mastering guy, or they need someone to mix it. You know, a lot of times they have. I'm already using them right now in my digital audio workstation. That they'll have things that master the song for you. One button, it analyzes the song, it masters it. Now I don't need to pay a mastering guy. Now I don't have to wait for a mastering guy. I just get it out. So I think that there's a lot of different ways that the AI is going to help creatives. I'm not so sure about the NFT part, like linking the technology. Maybe there's obviously like a code thing, like developers can maybe make platforms faster, but I think I think the people are more focused on like the creative side of like how it's disrupting.
So you asked a question earlier that I don't think either of us answered that directly about the implications to intellectual property of digital assets or NFTs. I think we can maybe circle back to that here, because with the rise of ChatGPT, large language models, and generative imagery and videos of music, etc., there is a real risk of not being able to tell what's real from what's fake, and who created that. You know, sometimes something that is AI enhanced or wholly AI created, if there's sort of a certain human pulling the strings like that, that might still be valuable to someone on the consumption side. So I do think the digital assets, the transparency of blockchain, and also the ability of metadata to sort of trace back like who actually originally authored this thing, even if they did it with AI assisted by AI assisted means, I think will be beneficial, and that's maybe how we should look at the potential benefits there to counteracting some of the otherwise confusing aspects of this phenomenon.
Our last question is about the marketplaces. We would like to get your opinion on difference and future of OpenSea and Blur.
Well, Blur's new, so I don't personally have a lot of experience with it. I know that they came out with Blend, which is the lending, which sounds extremely risky to me. But I mean, you know, if you can, it sounds very much geared towards traders. I don't see a lot of like normal people using those products. But I think they only have like 300 people that just signed up at launch. So it's very, very small amount of people are using this lending thing on Blur. OpenSea, I think you can tell in this ecosystem that nobody is loyal to the platform, because Looks Rare beat OpenSea, and then Looks Rare went nowhere. Now Blur is #1, and OpenSea, you know, is trying to play catch up, and it's like it happens like this. So these platforms that are like the OpenSeas and stuff, I think what they need to do is they need to have some sort of not regulation. I think they need something more than just the ability to buy and sell. They need a community. And I think that's what, like, I'm a firm believer, like, so we talk about decentralized social. So the head of Masari, he said his #1 investment thesis for 2023 was decentralized social. And I agree. I think that that's a huge market. We look at the big players like the Lens protocol. They say, oh, well, you can take your user base anywhere, right? And that's like, supposed to be a big plus. The thing is that you can't, yes, you can take your followers wherever you want to go because you own them. But are your followers going to follow you to the next platform? And it starts to become the issue. And so I think the platform needs that loyalty and it needs that network effect within it to keep the users on there. I think with OpenSea and Blur and everything, it's kind of like maybe Target and Walmart.com. I'm just going to go wherever I can get the best deal. And I think that's why we're seeing overnight market share, flip and then flip back because there's literally zero loyalty to the platform. Whereas Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, if you want to interact on that, you can only do it there because your users are there. These influencers on Twitter, these crypto influencers, if they go somewhere else, they don't have anyone to yell at, or talk to. So like they stick on that platform because there's a network effect. They've built that community from the ground up. So I think, what we're trying to do is build more than just a marketplace. It's building that community. I think people will stay with our platforms perhaps longer if we reach that, product market fit traction, peak where it's just going,
I'll just add, so with Blur, I think they launched with some interesting mechanics that people are trying to take advantage of, and there's a lot of high value transactions taking place. But I guess what the Web3 community has uncovered is it's sort of a lot of the same people trading with each other in order to gain these systems. So I'm not sure yet what their staying power will be. To your point, there have been other marketplaces, right? Wixrare, X2Y2, Magic Eden is out there too, right? That's originally Solana marketplace now, ETH as well. It's hard to say. I think for me, the key is who's going to best onboard new folks into the space. That user experience aspect is going to be really important. OpenSea probably is the best at this point. There's also been some convergence already in that OpenSea launched OpenSea Pro, which is more similar in its UX to what Blur already has. So for traders, that can sort of be a viable alternative again, if you remove those like mechanics that people are trying to gain at the moment for airdrops. But you also have Amazon, I think, getting into the NFT business soon. If it's not formally announced, I think it will be soon. And what will they do? Who knows? But certainly they have a lot of experience with marketplaces.
I'll just say one other thing. What is on these marketplaces? What's the product? It's creators, right? They're not selling a blender, they're not selling a toaster, they're selling people's works of art, right? And they've been very successful at it. But there's going to be a time when the artists start realizing where they're getting the best deal. Because right now it's focused on the trader. It's focused on where can the trader get the best deal. And the artist is kind of, some are really successful and some are not as successful, but I think it's going to shift because ultimately the artist is going to be the one that brings the eyeballs. And where is that artist going to be? I'm hoping it's on one of our platforms, because at least for me, we talked about it before. The royalty thing is the biggest thing for these artists, in regards to selling like an NFT of the asset. And if you can figure that out and you become the place where the artist is having a great experience, then they'll gravitate towards you, they'll stay with you, and then the fans and everyone else will come. I think that like there is really no loyalty in the OpenSeas of the world because it's just there's no incentive for you to stay on one or the other than just there's trader liquidity. that's the only incentive really to go, because they're like, okay, well, this is where the money is or whatever. But it's like, I think at some point the creator's gonna wisen up and be like, wait a second, I'm gonna get a better deal if I go here. I control my audience. I can tell my audience to go wherever I want. Why am I telling them to go to this place when I can tell them to go to this place and I'll get a better deal? So and you got guys like Snoop Dogg who are doing, they're very much like, why am I not, he pulled his music from Spotify because he's like, why am I not getting a fair cut? Those are some of the biggest albums in the world, pulled him because he realized he has power. The creator has a lot of power. And I think we're going to see a shift in where I think there's going to be making a marketplace that is optimized for the artist, for creators, is going to naturally bring the fans, I think.
You can probably take that one step further too. I mean, you mentioned earlier something of a blender, right? Like, there will be NFTs that have utility that is not exactly like a blender, but maybe that specific use case requires a different marketplace. The same way that we have many different marketplaces for all kinds of physical and non-physical goods that are digital assets. So as NFTs, as digital assets become more prominent, those use cases multiply, and people who are selling those things may have preferences about where they sell them.
Exactly.
And enough clusters of those sort of justify the existence of many different places where they can be sold.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Okay, now we're open to the floor, to the audience for questions.
Go back here.
Question.
That's enough.
So going back to, it's funny, I heard you guys say in many different ways, if we go back to the original question about what is an NFT and how it's not a great name. And what I heard you say often is that we're conflating the technology with the utility. And when she's asking about what gets traded and markets, and that's a different utility that perhaps neither of you really care about, but it's just you're using the technology for your specific use cases. There's something here about there's something like dirty about this market. That dirty? Yeah, dirty. Like it's been soiled. These things have been around for a long time. I mean, I remember when CryptoKitties first started, and nobody, that was the technology. It's the same technology nobody referred to it as NFTs. And you're in this space where you're kind of, you want to use this knowledge, you want to be able to refer to it so that people know what you're doing, but you also want to separate yourself from these things as the marketing guy. But I heard you kind of weave in and out of some of these things with the questions. What are how are you navigating this space?
Yeah, so based on talking to our community, talking to our investors, looking at the space generally, the perspective we have now, and we, like, if you look at our app today, we say minting, we say assets. So there is sort of more Web3 friendly terminology in the app right now. That said, I spent the last week or so identifying all of the instances of those words, and we're going to replace them with words like cards, creating, because as I said, we want to scale. We want to make this technology, these ideas accessible to a mass audience. And we don't believe in the current environment, the way that people perceive Web3 and NFTs generally is favorable to using that terminology. So we're taking a step back, and we've started to call ourselves more like Web 2.5. Even though all of that underlying power and potential is still there, it doesn't seem like the time is right to go really aggressively toward it. That said, we also know, because a lot of us are sort of enmeshed in all these other Web3 ecosystems, the folks who already believe in the potential of these things will see these new terms that we're going to use translated back into NFTs and minting and whatnot, and they'll still be accessible to us anyway. So we're kind of fine taking that step slightly back.
I think, for us, we're just trying to just call it as it is, call a spade a spade. So we sell ticketing, there's gonna be an NFT on the back end.
But not a wallet, a wallet.
It's not a wallet. Well, it could be a wallet for that page of the website. Your login could double as a wallet, but why is it that you have to connect wallet for every website? That's instant friction, because people are like, what the hell's a wallet? It should just say log in with MetaMask. That's what it should say. Because people understand that, oh, I need MetaMask. What is that? Oh, I gotta download this thing. But I think, to me, I think just by calling it what it is, this is this is that, like, not calling it an NFT, I'm calling it a ticket. Not calling it an NFT, I'm calling it a collectible. Not calling it an NFT, I'm calling it a rewards pass. Like, just, an NFT can be so many different things. Call it what it is. And I think the consumer will, like, at mass, I think will gravitate towards it more, because then there's no education involved. I think, I always hear these panels, everyone always says, we gotta educate the consumer. We have to educate them. Why? Like, if you have to educate them, it's too hard. It should be really simple to use. If I have to educate you, oh, and then you gotta click here to add this, and you gotta write down all these seed phrases, and then, oh, when you're transferring it, you gotta approve this thing because of this and that. It's like, that's really complicated for the average person. And, and if you have to learn that, and you don't have someone to teach you, and you don't have the grit to go on YouTube and figure it out, like, you're lost.
So, Adrian, those are great points, and thank you for both of your time today. If UX was removed from the equation, we can talk about that, but UX was there too, backwards compatibility, right? We should have UX and free. So let's assume that we have services and that the services are being realized. And of course, early adopters are on the platform first, right? So the early adopters know the NFT. They're doing a Google search on NFT. That's how they got to your platform. That's how they became your user base, most likely on your platform. And so UX is just a given. I absolutely agree with that. So change of language is just good UX. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. What was going through my mind too during this part of the conversation is, I think if you delight your users, if you solve their pain points, if you demonstrate utility today that will also continue into the future, then they will be ready to pay for that utility.
Same requirements you had when you started the company,
Yeah.
before NFT, before blockchain, before all that stuff, right?
Yeah, I guess the market fact.
This isn't a blockchain thing, right? This is just a good development UX. Adrian's always talked about when you're in LA, you're talking about UX. He turned to me and said, I don't want people to have to worry about that, about the 24 words. And I worked at a company where the CEO said the same exact thing to me. And so that is absolutely a requirement. But let's assume that you're the best UX in the world. It's the best UX in the world, and it's seamless because Facebook, FANG did it. They were seamless in how much they collected from you. We just want to do the same thing, but instead the users are gonna or something. So I'm just curious, what on your platforms have you thought about in terms of taking, little small steps towards that goal? I understand that there are
Small steps towards
clean UX, like delightful UX.
I mean, the W3C, sorry, the W3 kind of toolboxes that are out there are providing the out-of-box components that say you don't have to worry about some of the issues that they said on the first panel to worry about. Data ownership, self-sovereign, all that stuff. So I get that. They're not solving it 100% as well, but that's an example of a small step. We're going in the right direction of that. I'm just curious, outside the selection of the individual technologies, which is a very difficult decision to have to make. I mean, CEOs in this day and age are making a lot of important decisions of what not to do more than what they should be doing. So you've made some really good decisions to be where you are at this point. I'm just wondering, what are some of the better decisions that you feel you made in this space that might help us as viewers viewers to, hey, that works, because we're hearing about a lot of platforms, and everything you're saying is very useful. But for the wide gap that might exist between people that don't know what an NFT is, I agree, NFT is, it's exactly what you want. You never want to have to use that term. So curious about what your thoughts were on that in terms of the decision maker.
I mean, I think there are good decisions that we think we've made, but we don't know yet because we've only been around for a
We don't
year.
know they made them,
Yeah,
but you do.
yeah. Well, we think we've made good decisions, maybe in certain use cases. So one that comes to mind is our users on our platform are trading NFTs. They are minting NFTs, but none of this is done in Ethereum or Matic or in Polygon. We have instead an in-app currency. So, and we're a mobile app only, we're not on web. So we give some of that in-app currency to users when they onboard, and then you can purchase packages of it just like you would in a mobile game. And I think that's more familiar, it's more comfortable, it is not as scary as trading in cryptocurrencies that people don't understand or are afraid of and think are scams. But it's a totally different monetization model than selling NFTs for $1,000 or $50.
So the connection of the wallet, actually the connection of the wallet question that Angie brought up before, why do we need that? So that's one of the reasons, because you're assuming that you want to attach a wallet because you want to transact with your crypto, not your credit card or your PayPal. My daughter, and I'm not condoning this, I'm about to say something really bad, so I probably have to take this off the video, Jason, but my daughter, amongst other children, maybe adults, are playing Roblox. And in Roblox, there is this one game room, I don't know what it is, where they are negotiating with each other about what they're going to trade and what they're not going to trade. My daughter is an amazing negotiator for rare. I wish you knew the word rare from the book, but it was from the rare artifact that she got. Oh, Daddy, this is rare. Only this. So in that ecosystem, my daughter could be doing all this with NFTs. She wouldn't have to know about it. I'm not condoning Roblox, and I'm certainly not condoning the activity. But there are like these hubs where these kids are sitting there, and you see all these images, like you see these avatars, but they're just waiting, and they're negotiating. They're trading, and they're trading assets. If they can do it, I think the rest of the world can do it. But underlying the infrastructure, I'm wondering what some of the decisions that you're making, that you're 10 steps further than Roblox is. That's my point.
For our platform, I don't even think that I would really be, I don't think I would have started our company if we didn't solve the login issue. And the debate is still out on whether or not we have solved it, because we're still a brand new company. But that to me was the number one thing, because I could offer the greatest products in the world, but if I can't get somebody into a wallet, it doesn't matter. And that's why we focused on a platform and a login. I say login, but it's wallet. You get what I'm trying to say. The reason why is
my daughter's only 9, so she doesn't have a wallet. So the parents have to give her a wallet. So in this context, I have to be the one to log in to authenticate her as under the age of 13 years of age, I think, unless Apple does it for this stuff. I'm just saying that there's some issues that go into the wallet discussion with people under 18 in the US. Well, no, there's not, but I'm saying if you have to put funds in there, my daughter at 9 has to put funds in there. But I'm just saying this, but they want to participate too in the platform. They listen to music.
Part of law, regulations.
No, I don't think so.
Login.
It could be a wallet, it could be a credential wallet. A wallet is nothing more than stores things. There's nothing wrong with the term wallet, okay? There's nothing wrong with that term, and we can do the study.
You just gave them a.
What I'm saying though is that because of the financial tie of needing the account to get the crypto, they can't get into it on their own. They need a parent to do it. So I'm just saying that's some of the complexities that get involved. Can my kid do it on your platform at 9-year-old? Can she get on the platform?
We do an age check, but I mean, we don't require them to show their ID. So
You'd be violating your privacy.
yeah.
No, but what I'm saying is that I didn't mean to foreshadow your platform.
Can they use the platform?
Yeah, that's what I said.
Like, not just a legal question, but are they able to do everything?
I did not mean to suggest, I'm not throwing anything, I love
No, I don't.
everything you're saying about your life. I'm literally just asking the types of questions within the context it's an NFT that you've had to deal with as a decision maker. That's why I was trying to get, because my 9-year-old wants to use your platform, and I
Yeah.
think she would be able to do it.
But we don't,
Yeah, yeah,
I think this kind of problem exists with current technology too, right? It's not just a NFT problem, it's not just a Web3 problem, it's a problem
It's great.
that exists nowadays. It's very crucial for us parents to
Yes.
know what's happening to our youngsters.
Yes.
We really are running very late on
Yeah.
schedule, so thank you, Adrian, and
That's-
very nice, great to have you.